it's just confusing that it's now all of a sudden they're preparing for the unprecedented nature of a suspension and fine, but yet 6 months ago, here's the sign on the dotted line, you're traded. He's going to be able to he's been available to the media twice since then, whereas 6 months ago, he was nowhere to be found. They didn't want him speaking. He made $10 million plus last year to not play. I mean, the only punishment will be he's not able to play, and in fact, he's being paid handsomely if in fact the suspension is only games, because it's tough to fine him based on the rules.
Yeah, and we should point out, as we do virtually every time that the NFLPA comes up, it's the weakest union in all of sports. And I can't think of a case off the top of my head, though there probably is one, where they've been effective at something like this. They negotiate weak CBAs that allow for situations like this where the power...
Yeah, they negotiate the suspension down on the appeal, but it's not like it's...
Yeah, that's kind of formulaic most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. The unprecedented report, the word is interesting because...
Well, that's the most interesting
thing. The unprecedented to me is this is... they would act on something to some large extent based on accusations and no criminal finding. And that would be unprecedented to give someone some huge fine or suspend them for a year.
And there would be no
or it's more than a year.
If the league was consistent in this case, he wouldn't miss a single down. Quite frankly, until he's convicted of something, they just come back and say, well, it's all allegations. He denies it. They're saying it's true, and 2 grand juries threw it out. So our hands are tied.
Well,
we're not doing anything until something happens.
That plus the lack of a settlement. Plus the lack of a settlement, because they've suspended guys who've settled.
If they go on their whole thing so far, their stance of silence and doing nothing, then they would continue to do nothing until he, as you said, settles or is convicted of something.
Which I agree with what you're saying, but it puts him in a very awkward position to have him be a featured player in the league with this looming over his head and potentially new lawsuits continuing to trickle out.
I also think that it puts
How fun would that be for the league to have, hey, here's lawsuit 27 and 28. Let's see what he says after they play the Cowboys this week.
Paul, you don't think it puts them in an awkward position if they do nothing for this long and then all of a sudden decide you're done for a year? That's going to put them in an awkward spot, too.
They're in an awkward spot no matter what.
Right? I mean, that's going to appease the masses, I think, if they did that. But based on what they've done, it would be completely inconsistent. And I believe he's getting some sort of suspension. I'm just saying that based on what they've done so far, there's nothing new in this case that would lead them to doing something or announcing something.
And I absolutely believe he's done something suspension-worthy, though I'm confused by the grand jury stuff, obviously.
The other important thing to note is this is not the Goodell NFL investigation. It's independent, and based on that, the whole public trial, the public trial by opinion, it's not supposed to factor into what she comes back with on the recommendation for the suspension or penalty, if there even is one. And I throw that in there because that's also an option. Although I agree with you guys, there's going to be something. The question I would also ask is, whenever they get this recommendation from their independent investigator, does Goodell look at it and think, okay, we're just going to go by the recommendation and this is going to be the suspension? He can go less than the recommendation. He can go more. But if you're going above and beyond that, the questions remain, why not, if you're going to suspend him more than the recommendation from the independent investigation anyway, what took you so long?
Yeah. I can't imagine
that's my question
more.
to it.
I can't imagine they go more than the recommendation.
Well, I mean, based on, I'm saying based on how many people think we're getting a harsher suspension than what was perceived to be like a 6-week type deal because of the news and the continued allegations and the fact that the public
badly for him.
wants this, so the league will react to this in comparison to what Major League Baseball did. So if you buy that, then what are we really waiting on here? If that's what Goodell and the NFL are going to do, I think they're going to just go based on whatever the independent investigator says she recommends, and that's what they're going with. And then they'll go into the quick appeal.
Well, they'll take their temperature. They'll take public opinion temperature after she'll announce her thing. They'll announce it. And then between that and Goodell confirming or adjusting, they'll certainly monitor the temperature of the football watching public to see if people think it's right or not.
But if that was true, where were they last September?
Yeah, I just don't think the football watching public is going to care enough.
I think the football watching public will have a big reaction one way or the other.
In the court of public opinion, last year, whenever all of this came out, if they're going to react to what the public and what the media was wanting, this guy would have been placed on some type of list a year ago, and he wasn't.